In every Dragon Age game so far, we've had a quest that involves siding with either Templars or Mages in some way, and it's honestly genius that the games use that terminology. You are siding with one or the other. You are choosing which side to support and damn the other one, because that's how it always works, right? One side is objectively bad, one side is objectively good, and there's no wiggle room between the two of them whatsoever, right? If you're coming here from the similarly titled video we did on the Skyrim Civil War, you may have an idea of where this video is going, but either way, we are super pumped to have you along for the ride as we discuss the ethical and moral ambiguity behind Dragon Age's most prevalent social conflict. Let's check it out. What's up, guys? I am SJ from 10 Points of Slashing, and welcome to another polarizing discussion about my favorite video game franchise of all time, Dragon Age. In this video, we'll be talking about the long-standing conflict between Mages and Templars, how the games frame that conflict to us, the players, and talking about if there actually is a good guy or bad guy in this particular scenario, if there is a right or wrong decision as far as who to side with. Some similar ground rules as the Skyrim video. This is designed to be an overview, and as such, I'm really only going to talk about things that have been told to us through gameplay of Origins 2 and Inquisition. I'm gonna lay all of the facts down on the table first as far as who the Mages and Templars are and the respective organizations they represent before getting into opinions and conjecture. We'll be jumping into each major Mage/Templar quest in the 3 Dragon Age games and breaking down exactly what is going on in each of them that makes them morally ambiguous, and talking about who I personally side with after considering all of the ethical and moral ramifications. Then we'll close it out with the big question: who are the good guys here? And while this video may be divisive, while I may say some things that you fundamentally disagree with, at its core, this video is very simply a celebration of the lore of Dragon Age. If you disagree with my take on things, awesome. That's one of the things I love so much about this world. There is so much to debate and discuss, and two people raised in the same household with the same core values and beliefs can have two entirely different viewpoints on things in this world. So let's kick it off by talking about who and what the Mages and Templars are and why they are constantly pitted against each other in these games. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start with the Mages. The Mages of the world of Dragon Age have an incredibly troubled history, and honestly, rightfully so. I'll be summarizing this as much as possible here, so bear with me if I skip out on the little details, but I really want to get to the big picture for you guys. In the world of Dragon Age, magic is essentially sourced from another plane of existence called the Fade. With the Veilguard on the very near horizon, everybody wants to talk about Solus right now and how he created the Veil and split the Fade from our world and is basically single-handedly at fault for the existence of demons, yada yada yada. But I'm just gonna say it right now, this video is not about Solus, so we're skipping that whole mess entirely and again, just sticking to the facts. Magic is sourced from the Fade, and so are demons. No matter which way you slice it, accessing magic requires somebody to access the realm that demons come from. And since time immemorial, demons have used that fact to invade our world. So much death, destruction, chaos, and general misery and suffering has been caused by demonic possession, which in the world of Dragon Age is a real fucking problem. This isn't, oh no, Billy is writing threatening messages in pig's blood on the walls. Let's get a priest to cleanse him. This is, oh no, the child we used to know as Billy has ceased to exist and is now a literal flesh puppet for an otherworldly being that murdered our entire family and burnt our farm to the fucking ground. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, and I apologize, so let's backpedal. When a mage taps into the Fade to access magic, which they can do without being consciously aware of it, they essentially open up a conduit from our material realm to the Fade. Demons can then hop on that conduit and attempt to possess the mage. This is typically done with some form of manipulation. Most mages wouldn't willingly allow a demon to possess them, so the demon usually resorts to some type of trickeration. Demons can be incredibly intelligent and persuasive, and their manipulation can transcend our mortal understanding of what that means. It's reinforced time and time again throughout the franchise that being in the Fade is like being in a dream, and we see that firsthand when some of our companions are manipulated by demons with what looks like pretty low effort. In the world of Dragon Age, a mage could, in theory, have a completely normal day, go to bed, and never actually wake up because they've been possessed by a demon at any point in time. This is a very real, very serious threat, and it is due to that threat that in the Divine Age, which took place almost 1,000 years prior to the events of the Dragon Age, the Chantry, which is essentially the church of the major world religion, created the Circle of Magi to regulate and supervise magic. Here's the extremely condensed summary of what the Circle is. When a child exhibits signs of being able to use magic, they are taken away from their families and forced to live, study, and exist for the rest of their lives entirely within one of the Circle's towers. There, they're trained and monitored as they're essentially groomed to grow and use their magical ability for one purpose: to serve the Chantry. Let's condense this summary even more. Mages are ripped away from their families, forced into a labor camp, indoctrinated into a religion, and either executed or essentially lobotomized if they disagree with any of it. So, who does the ripping away? Who does the monitoring, the executing, and the lobotomizing? An organization called the Templar Order. I'm going to slap a line from the Chant of Light on screen real quick. Magic exists to serve man and never to rule over him. This is something the Order lives and dies by, and while the message behind it is reasonable and honorable, it is incredibly ironic when you look at the state of the Order as of the events of Inquisition. So, who are these people? The Templar Order is basically a paramilitary arm of the Chantry. While the Chantry itself does not have an actual army, they employ Templars to guard their churches, protect the innocent, serve the weak, yada yada yada. General paladin shit, right? But also, the Templars are the force the Chantry employs to combat any type of magical fuckery whatsoever. This charge includes duties such as guarding the Circle Towers, administering punishment to the mages therein, hunting down apostate mages, etc. Templars are typically also recruited as children or teenagers, and their training has a heavy emphasis on the Chant of Light. They are a religious order first and foremost. Templar training also includes forcing them into a nightmarish drug addiction? Yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. In order to attain the famed Templar powers and abilities that allow them to nullify magic, a Templar must continuously ingest lyrium, a mineral with its own whole ass crazy backstory that we won't get into. If a Templar stops taking lyrium, they go through some pretty extreme withdrawal symptoms, some of which we can see firsthand throughout the games. So let's summarize everything we have so far and pepper in a little bit of additional history before moving to the real meat of this video. Mages and Thetis have to risk demonic possession every single time they use magic and are generally at risk at any given point in time. So, a long time ago, a religious organization in southern Thetis identified this and chose to create a method to control this phenomenon in order to protect people and prevent the world from being overtaken by demons. They constructed the Circle of Magi and its towers and built an order of holy warriors who were capable of nullifying magic to guard those towers. Why did they do this? Because an organization which became known as the First Inquisition was gallivanting across Thetis at the time, hunting down mages and mercilessly and ruthlessly killing them. The Chantry sought a less bloody solution than a violent crusade, and so signed the Navaran Accord with the Inquisition, which resulted in the formation of the Circle of Magi and the absorption of the Inquisition into the Chantry, becoming the Templar Order. History tells us that the Circle of Magi was an act of mercy. The Chantry chose to allow mages to continue to live despite the constant threat of demonic possession, but under the direct supervision and protection of a righteous knightly order. This was a decision made for the good of all people, including mages. A decision made of kind, good-hearted intentions. However, what we see today is something entirely different. The games do a phenomenal job of painting the Templar Order in a consistently god-awful light. We see Templars abusing their power, using intimidation and fear to achieve their ends, which may not align with the organizations as a whole. We see bloodlust and paranoia. We do see good, honest Templars, people doing the right thing and upholding what the organization is supposed to be. But I'd say a majority of Templar depiction across Dragon Age is just them being complete power-hungry dicks. This is an organization that is absolutely gripped by fear. Not fear of demons or possession, fear of magic. One might even say that that fear rules over the Templar Order, and that fear has degraded the Order to the point that the Templar Order we see in the games is not one that exists to protect mages, it is one that exists to cull them. So with all that said, let's get to the good stuff. We'll talk about each of the major Mage versus Templar decisions you make across the 3 games before getting to the big question. First up, Broken Circle in Dragon Age Origins. The Circle Tower in Ferelden has been completely overrun by abominations and demons. The commander of the Templars within this tower, Knight Commander Gregor, has sent a message to the Chantry requesting authorization on the right of annulment, an absolutely batshit crazy countermeasure that the Knight Commander has the right to exercise if he deems all of the mages within a tower to be irredeemable. The right of annulment allows the Templars to kill every single mage in a tower without trial, even if they are objectively innocent. Let's back up a little bit. As I said, this is absolutely batshit crazy, but in the context of the world of Dragon Age, is it really? We're dealing with straight up demonic possession here, and some of the demons that exercise that ability are extremely intelligent. When possessing someone, they have access to that person's memories and life experience. A crafty demon could very easily feign innocence, pretend to be bewildered, use the memories of the person they're possessing to make it seem like everything is alright, and then once the Templars have their backs turned again, the demon strikes. Takes out the entire force of Templars, corrupts the remainder of the mages within the tower, and launches a campaign of chaos, fire, and general world domination using that tower as a base of operations. Is the right of annulment barbaric? Yes, absolutely. I'm sure the decision to invoke the right would forever weigh on the mind of any good man or woman that orders it. It's horrendous. But, and I'm sure I'm gonna make some enemies here, it was designed in the interest of protecting people, the same as the Templar Order itself. The incredibly unfortunate truth is that these horrible barbaric things such as the right of annulment, were put in place to prevent more innocent people from dying, to prevent the village a few miles away from the tower that houses 20 innocent, happy families from being burned to the ground by possessed mages. With that said, I don't think that I could ever personally order the right of annulment unless I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that every single mage in the tower was in fact irredeemable. Or maybe I could. Looking at the bigger picture in that particular moment may be incredibly humbling and serve to help somebody make that decision. I don't know, nobody does. It's an impossible decision to make. Which is why I feel that it is the right thing to do to side with the mages in Broken Circle. Here's the deal. Even if there weren't innocent mages left alive in the tower, even if every single mage had indeed been possessed, we don't know that. Gregor himself said he didn't know for sure, and he had already ordered the right of annulment. Authorization and reinforcements are already on the way by the time you arrive at the tower. I think that Gregor has done the right thing by invoking the right. He's a guy that's just doing his job. He's not one of the bloodthirsty, power-hungry Templars we see in other parts of the Dragon Age franchise. He has a genuine interest in protecting people, and it shows in his actions. Straight from the Codex and Origins, it is the innocent folk of Ferelden who matter. I would lay down my life and the life of any mage to protect them. Allowing you to enter the tower and attempt to find Irving to send the all clear to Gregor so that he can rescind the right of annulment is what I believe to be the right thing to do in this situation. So, as a final word on Broken Circle, if anybody is the good guy in this questline, it's just Knight Commander Gregor. Moving right along to the last straw in Dragon Age 2. And this one might piss some people off. Here's the most succinct and honest summary I can write of the event that triggers this quest. All right, look, it doesn't like trigger the quest. The quest was already happening, and this probably just exacerbated Meredith. She was probably gonna do all this crazy shit anyway, but just bear with me here. A man belonging to a group of genuinely oppressed people who are oppressed because people are afraid of them and what they're capable of, uses the things he's capable of to blow up a building full of countless innocent people. I'm sorry, usually I'm very much the guy that's like, everybody has an opinion that's based in some kind of fact, and no one is objectively right or wrong in their opinion, and I love discussing differing viewpoints to broaden my own and blah blah blah. But violently murdering a building full of innocent people is not the right way to advance your cause. Unless your cause is validating the people that are oppressing you and giving them more justification to treat you the way they have been your entire life.
But nothing changed until Anders rose up and did what he did.
Oh, you mean until the demon that was possessing Anders did what he did? You know, the whole murdering of innocent people? That thing everybody's trying to protect people from? The entire reason the Circles and the Templars exist to begin with? There are better ways to make your point, Anders, you fucking idiot. Again, I'm sorry, but I don't think I've ever hated a character in a video game more than Anders, which is a testament to BioWare's incredible writing. He's a shining example of why mages are feared. The dude is fucking possessed and spends the whole game telling you, nah man, I'm not possessed. I'm just really good friends with the spirit that's living inside of me that manifests itself as an incredibly angry and powerful boon in combat and also wants me to murder Templars all the time. Anyway, I digress. Getting back to the subject matter. After Anders outs himself as being a massive shit stain, Knight Commander Meredith reveals that she too is a massive shit stain and decides to immediately spin up the Rite of Annulment without seeking Chantry approval first, despite Anders not belonging to the Kirkwall Circle in any way, shape, or form. The choice then falls to the player as to whether or not to support the Templars in the Rite of Annulment or the Mages in their fight to survive. This decision lands on the player after an entire game of seeing Mages be generally mistreated and Templars be generally assholes. So, once again, I find myself siding with the Mages in the last straw. Meredith was, not in the right frame of mind to be in the position she was, and even if she had followed the proper channels to invoke the Rite of Annulment, she did so in response to a fugitive doing fugitive shit, not a representative of the Circle. If Meredith had been in her right mind, this could have been a beautiful moment where Orsino's like, this trash is not what mages are. Execute his bitch ass, and the entire Circle will commit to being better than this. This could have been a learning moment that resulted in positive change. But Meredith was in the wrong. And if you've ever worked in management, you know that even if everyone else around you is in the wrong, if you're in charge and you're in the wrong, you're the one getting yelled at. Meredith was supposed to be the final voice of reason, the person that made the right choice even in the face of uncertainty, like Gregor. Instead, she abused her power and, in that moment, exemplified everything that is wrong with the Templar Order. With all that said, in Dragon Age 2, we see the constant and flagrant use of blood magic almost everywhere we look. Ancient and incredibly powerful demons literally living under the city as a direct result of said blood magic. Excessive amounts of mages being possessed, etc. If Meredith had been fired at the beginning of Act 3 and our boy Gregor took over, a good Templar with the people's best interest in mind, he would probably have not been okay with this whole Kirkwall situation. Was the Rite of Annulment the right choice to begin with? I mean, my answer is probably always going to be no to that question, but we have to be honest with ourselves. Kirkwall is an absolute cesspool of magical evil, and people are justified in being afraid. The Templars there handled things like completely incompetent dunces, but nonetheless, blood magic and possession were rampant in Kirkwall, and I feel like that should be discussed. Also, one last time, Anders is fucking trash. Last but not least, Champions of the Just and In Hushed Whispers in Dragon Age Inquisition. Due to the events of the last straw, a straight-up war between mages and Templars breaks out across southern Thedas. Mages rise up against the oppression and injustice the Templar Order demonstrably employs, and the Templars respond in kind. This one, my friends, is fascinating to talk about in the context of storytelling. Rather than put the player in a position where they have to choose between supporting one side or the other in the war, in Inquisition, the player has to choose which group to recruit to assist with closing the giant magic hole in the sky that is pouring out demons. When one group is chosen, the other falls under the control of the big bad evil guy. And here's why I find this fascinating. The first area of the game puts you in the middle of this conflict. We see mages and Templars tearing each other apart right off the bat, and Dragon Age veterans think, I've seen this before, I'm gonna have to side with either the mages or the Templars. And for the most part, up to this point, those decisions have been relatively easy to make. I'd say that a majority of people are conditioned to siding with the mages, the people being oppressed, especially after the last game where 90% of Templars are certifiable dicks. So this funny thing happens in our brains where we go, well, I'm gonna base my decision at the start of this game off the decision I made at the end of the last game, because the conflict we're seeing now is a direct result of the last thing we did in Dragon Age. People choose which side to recruit based on who they feel is the good guy in the war, not which side is better suited to help. However, something even more interesting happens when the player starts the quest to recruit each side. On the mages side, we find out that there are some Tevinter mages fucking with space, time, and reality itself over there in Redcliffe. And on the Templar side, we find out that their leader is just being kinda mean lately and nobody really knows why. Which one of these two things feels like the more pressing thing to handle? In a world where you have to make a choice and can only choose one of them, I think it's safe to say that generally everybody is gonna go, yeah, the whole space-time continuum thing is a bit more important to me than Lucius crying about his destiny being respected or whatever. And I think I generally lean more that direction when it comes to who I side with in Dragon Age Inquisition. However, I will say that if you take the time magic conundrum and Lucius being possessed by an envy demon things out of the equation entirely, I am beyond the shadow of a doubt recruiting the Templars. By that point in the game, the only thing we've established about the gigantic hole in the sky is that it is magical in nature. So yeah, I'm gonna go for the organization whose entire thing is negating and nullifying things that are magical in nature. Without knowing the end result of both choices, I think that Templars stand a much better chance at being able to close a magical hole in the sky because that's exactly what they do. All that said, Inquisition is also unique in the fact that there isn't much moral or ethical ambiguity in who you side with here. Choosing one condemns the other no matter who you pick, and the player doesn't know that up front. And again, you're not really picking a side in the war, you're just picking who you want helping the Inquisition. However, this begs the question, if the game framed it that way, who would you side with in the war? I definitely answered this in no uncertain terms in the Horrors of Magic video we did, but believe it or not, I am absolutely siding with the Templars in this war. With the caveat, the Order needs reform. There are changes that must be made, and this war needs to be a lesson to those in charge. As I said, the fear gripping the Templar Order that exists during the events of Inquisition is what controls their every move, not their dedication to the people or even their service to a higher power. Fear. Without getting into the same rant that I got into in the Horrors of Magic video, let's just say that there's a lot that I want to see change within the Order after this war. I will say that the mages are justified in rebelling. They're definitely being mistreated and oppressed, but you have to consider the world of Dragon Age itself. You have to consider the fact that demonic possession is a real thing that happens and can happen to any mage. That is something that has to be regulated in order to protect people. And in this world, sometimes that means protecting them from themselves. So, to close it all out, let's ask the big question. Overall and in general, who are the good guys? I'm sure you've seen this coming from a mile away, especially if you're coming here from the similarly titled Skyrim video. Everybody is the good guy in the Mage-Templar conflict. Except Anders. As I said, mages have a right to rebel. We have seen time and time again throughout the franchise that in Southern Thedas, mages are treated like shit. They're at the mercy of whatever mood the Templars are in that day. They're taught that magic is evil, and there are Templars that take that to mean that mages themselves are evil. And then there are Templars that I believe see the core of what the order truly is. Templars like Gregor, Thrask, and Barris. At the end of the day, the fact is, the Templar Order, the Rite of Annulment, even monstrous things like Tranquility, were created to protect people. While the intention behind these things may have been pure and good, the reality of them is absolutely cruel and barbaric. But demonic possession is also cruel and barbaric. And until somebody figures out a way to completely prevent it, I honestly think that Southern Theda's Circle of Magi is the best bet, with some reform. Both sides have a right to their arguments, and both arguments are completely justifiable. As I said at the top of this video, regardless of what your opinion is on who's right, who's wrong, who's an asshole, who's not, the bottom line here is that I just want to recognize the incredible storytelling behind this conflict. To me, the way that Dragon Age does magic and mages in general was the biggest storytelling draw of this franchise when I first started playing these games. I absolutely adore a conflict in a game that walks the gray line of morality in the way that this franchise does. It just gets your gears turning, man. As a closing thought, I'd like to leave you with this, an invitation. Play both sides of every conflict in every RPG. I think Dragon Age players, as a general rule, do this a little bit more than in other RPGs, simply due to the fact that one of the draws of this franchise is the amount of different decisions you can make and the consequences you must face as a result of those decisions. But sometimes we get so caught up in our own real-world beliefs and viewpoints that we forget that this is a video game. These are fictional conflicts that we have the incredible opportunity to live both sides of and see everybody's perspective, whether we agree with it or not. And it's fun, man, especially when you find a character on the side you hate that you can connect with. Somebody or something that challenges your perspective and makes you go, wait, maybe there's more to this than I thought. And then you explore that. And if you're a diehard Templar that lives for the glory of Andraste, to smite all evil and nullify all magic, if you go play a mage and really immerse yourself in that character, then come out the other side and go, yeah, nothing changed. I was right all along. Awesome. It feels good to be right, and it feels even better to play an incredible game and experience an incredible story all over again. And I hope that even if you fundamentally disagree with everything I said in this video, that you at least got that out of it, an urge to go play Dragon Age again. Thank you so much for checking out the video and the channel. We are obviously insanely hyped for the Veilguard, so if you like our style, please hit that subscribe button and stay tuned. I'd also personally love it if you join the Discord server and talk Dragon Age with us. The link to join is in the video description. And if you don't want to do either of those things, I totally get it. Just drop a like or a comment and let us know what your take is on the Mage Templar conflict. Or hit me with an eggplant emoji, whatever you want. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya. Without knowing the end result of both choices, I think that Templars? What the fuck is happening?